Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and again, for 2 weeks in a row, let's make it a habit, Sean Keenan.
Heidi also has a secret older sister you've never heard about before.
And of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and since Thor got a haircut, we look like twins now.
It's almost as if I didn't know who I was watching when I was on the theater. I'm like, okay, wait, no. Suspension of disbelief. That can't be. It can't be.
I know, man. It's uncanny.
Actual swooning happened. Actual swooning happened in the movie theater while I was watching it this weekend. Many ladies were swooning for sure.
And we have no doubt that the world was swooning as this week's review of Thor Ragnarok has hit the world by storm, man. Just this shy of $500 million this weekend worldwide, boys. Woo!
That's not bad.
Not too shabby.
Good.
And I think it's like, what?
I'm glad. 94%
on Rotten Tomatoes, man. They are not playing around over there at Marvel. They are really getting all up in it. And so we're going to be talking about that today.
That's well over $400 million more than my books made this weekend.
just by they just outdid you by that much. He's holding up. He's going to his wife. He just goes, "Honey, have you seen the returns yet? I think Thor might have beat you." No, bottle again.
Oh! I broke $2.
Well, we're retiring early this month, I see. So yes, another month has come around, and another month of the lovely people that go over to patreon.com/HMP. Oh my goodness, you guys the last month was fantastic, and you've done it again this month, and we thank you all, each and every one of you. Though we do want to talk about the big people on the mound here, man. The executive producer level. Again, we're looking at our good old friends Jim Beverly, Matthew Schnapp. We got Alex. We got Robert, RocketFace, Jeff, Simon, Carlton, and new to it, our good old friend Maria from upstate New York has jumped all the way up to producer.
Welcome aboard.
Oh my goodness. She is, and she's going to get an extra shout out on the film finding stuff because she's been rocking stuff over there and things as well. She has become quite the acolyte of all the things that we do, and we love her, and we love everybody that goes over to patreon.com/HMP and drop a little bit of shekels our way. You get the pre-show, the post-show, extra stuff all in there, everybody. And thank you guys so much for doing that, man. So let's get into it, everybody. I think we're going to have a jam-packed episode this weekend, or it's weekend when we record it, so, take it for what it is. Here is the trailer for Thor Ragnarok.
So much has happened since I last saw you. I lost my hammer, like yesterday, so that's still pretty fresh. And then I went on a journey of self-discovery. I met you. Where are we? You have no idea. Hela, the goddess of death, has invaded Asgard.
Oh, I've missed this.
And you and I had a fight recently.
Did I win?
No, I won, easily.
Doesn't sound right.
Well, it's true.
Asgard is dead. And it'll be reborn in my image. I thought you'd be glad to see me.
I need to stop her here and now. To prevent Ragnarok, the end of everything. So I'm putting together a team. Like the old days. Surprise! This will be such fun. Hello.
Hi.
He's a fighter.
Here we go! I'm not a queen or a monster. I'm the goddess of death. What were you the god of again?
We're the same, you and I. Just a couple of hot-headed fools.
Yeah, same. Hulk like fire, Thor like water.
Well, kind of both like fire.
But Hulk like raging fire, Thor like smoldering fire.
Alrighty, that was the trailer for Thor Ragnarok, our new release review of this week. Here is the IMDb plotline. Imprisoned, the mighty Thor finds himself in a lethal gladiatorial contest against the Hulk, his former ally. Thor must fight for survival and race against time to prevent to prevent the all-powerful Hela from destroying his home in the Asgardian civilization. This is starring Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, Kate Blanchett, Mark Ruffalo, Idris Elba, Jeff Goldblum, Carl Urban, Anthony Hopkins. We got a boatload of people in this. Directed and also co-starring Taika Waititi. Here it is, everybody. Like I said, big times on here. We've talked about Thor a lot, but we've got to do what we always do around here, and that's ask our big question.
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Bruce, what do you got for us this week, sir?
Well, there's a whole lot of comic book stuff in this movie we haven't covered before, so strap in. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Ooh. And I guess we'll start with Hela, the Norse goddess of death who lives in Niflheim. And in the comics, she happens to be the daughter of Loki, though it's a different incarnation of Loki. Her antler-like battle headdress in this movie is an amazingly faithful adaptation of the way Jack Kirby drew the character. Her power to produce weapons at will seems to be borrowed from a character from Jason Aaron's run on the Mighty Thor called Gore the God Killer. Surtur is a fire demon native to the extra-dimensional plane of Muspelheim. And Scourge the Executioner is a person who's had a tough life from the moment he was born and his mama decided to name him Scourge the Executioner. Just imagine you're a Subway manager hiring a new sandwich artist and you have two applications, one from Kevin Jones and the other from Scourge the Executioner. You're probably going to roll the dice with Kevin first. Now, Scourge's most memorable moment in the comics is the time he defended a supernatural bridge from an attack by Hela using two M16s, so the movie is incredibly accurate to that moment from the comics. The planet Sakaar is famous from the Planet Hulk storyline that this movie conflagrates with Contest of Champions to create our story world. In Planet Hulk, the Illuminati launch Hulk into space. He crash lands on Sakaar, where a character named the Red King puts him into gladiator fights. Hulk ultimately starts a revolution on the planet. In this movie, the Red King character is replaced by the Grand Master, one of the elders of the universe and brother to Benicio del Toro's Collector. Grandmaster challenged the entity Death to a contest where they each put together a team of superheroes and villains and pitted them against one another in battle. Valkyrie is another character from the comics with ties to Asgard, though not technically Asgardian in the comics. She has a winged horse named Aragorn and a fancy sword named Dragonfang, courtesy of Dr. Stephen Strange. She made her first honest-to-goodness genuine appearance in the Hulk number 142, thus the name Scrapper 142. Finally, I want to mention the Defenders. Not the Netflix series version of the Defenders, but the Marvel Comics Defenders. The original lineup was Doctor Strange, Valkyrie, and the Hulk, with Silver Surfer joining soon after. Note when they call the team the Revengers, well, there was at least one diehard comic book fan gritting his teeth and seething in impotent rage that they didn't have the cojones to say Defenders. Sure, you've got to respect your Netflix brethren, but when your movie has the original Defenders lineup, they at least deserve a minor name drop. Korg is a character from Planet Hulk that looks a lot like Ben Grimm's Thing in the comics, and Meek is an insectoid native of Sakaar. Most of the characters in Planet Hulk are immigrants from other planets, but this insectoid is the rare native. Anyway, I think I focused on the most significant stuff, but other nuggets will almost certainly come up during our review.
Oh, you gotta love the nuggets, right?
Oh yeah, I'm all about the nuggets.
So let's talk about this, man, because this is I think this is most people's biggest thing with this. And by the way, I'm sure that we get a lot of brand new listeners with the huge episodes like this and everything. So just to let everyone know, we do talk about everything within the actual movie that we review. So spoiler alerts, all that kind of good jazz. We talk about everything beginning to end and stuff. So if you haven't seen the movie and don't want to be spoiled, not sure why you're listening, pause right here and then come back when you're ready. And, we'll still be here. We're not going nowhere.
And there's probably a chance that we may drop some moderate level spoilers on other Marvel movies if they pertain to this one.
Well, and again, most of our stuff could also be very much guessing at that point as well, because, like you said, there's some stuff in here that matches, some stuff that not necessarily, goes with the flow, if you will. But let's just talk about this, because this seems to be wildly talked about, is that this is probably, outside of maybe Guardians and stuff, this is probably the funniest Marvel cinematic movie we've gotten yet.
It's legitimately funny also.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Marvel funny, where a lot of the times some of their jokes land flat, but you laugh anyway because you're in on the joke,
Right,
where it's like insider jokes. These jokes work outside of knowing who these people are. It's the question that kept coming up with people that I spoke to this weekend about this movie, because they were like, hey, how was it? And I always, and my first thing is, it's really funny. And then their next question is always, is it funnier than Deadpool? And no, it's not, but it is very funny. And it's not trying to be Deadpool. It's more trying to be Guardians of the Galaxy, but it works. This movie to me, I really, really like this movie. And the other thing that came up this weekend was where does it fall in the Pantheon? Because now Marvel has, 17 movies that they've come out with now?
I think that's about right.
I think that's the number, is 17. And, I'm thinking about it. I had to go through it. And, I don't know how they rank for you guys, but my top 5 are the first Avengers, because, it's such a high watermark to get that right. Then it's Winter Soldier, then the first Guardians movie, then Civil War, then second Guardians movie, and then I put Iron Man after that, and then comes Thor Ragnarok. I really, really like this movie.
Well, that's not a bad list there. I think so. Bruce, what are your kind of order?
Well, I'm glad you made the caveat outside of Guardians of the Galaxy. This might be their funniest movie, because as hard as this tries, and I do like this movie, don't take this as a negative, but this isn't Guardians of the Galaxy, though it's trying to really remind us of Guardians of the Galaxy a lot here. None of it taking place on Earth. Very few Earth-bound characters here. But it's funnier than their non-Guardian stuff, and it is legitimately funny. And I think some of the jokes that work best for me work because I am familiar with that other stuff. I know, Sean, you'd mentioned that there's the legitimately funny stuff that if you don't know the characters, you still laugh at it. But some of my best chuckles came from having, pretty intense knowledge of these characters after 17 movies, 18 if you count Big Hero 6. So I've been with these guys for a long time.
Right.
But top 5 for me, for me, it's always Avengers as number 1, the first Avengers. I probably, and it's going to depend on the day that you ask me, but I'm probably going to put Guardians number 1 and Guardians number 2 as 2 and 3. And depending on the day, I might flip flop which one goes where. I'm going to throw the first Iron Man up there at number 4. And then probably put Civil War at number 5. And this is, then I have to start really picking stuff apart and see where this falls. But there's a good chance this could be 6. It definitely will be the highest ranking of any of the Thor movies for what that's worth.
Yeah, for me, I agree with you. To me, Thor has always been an also-ran. I mean, I like the character, which I never thought I would.
And as much as I lean into comedy, I'm surprised I don't have this one in my top 5. But the humor in Avengers works a little bit better for me than the humor here. But it's not that this falls flat. I'm just comparing Babe Ruth to Joe DiMaggio here for all those football fans out there.
Listen to you. What about you, Adam?
Well, it's interesting for me. I think I would probably put mine's a little bit different from I think most people's. I'd probably put Doctor Strange at number 5.
Really?
Yeah. I just something I love the visual. I love the storytelling of it, and I don't know. I just like kind of going out there a little bit. I'd probably put Spider-Man: Homecoming there at number 4. Ant-Man at number 3, Guardians at 2, and Captain America: First Avenger at number 1 there. I have a, but that's especially Captain America is not too surprising for me because it's it's Joe Johnston, who's very much a kind of Spielberg acolyte, and I'm a big Spielberg guy, and so just having that sort of traditional tale and the old back in the 40s and everything with it, it really it works for me. It's probably one of, if not the best origin movie that there's ever been in comic books, I think.
Wow.
How did I know that your list was going to be so totally and utterly different than mine and Bruce's?
I'm an odd cat.
Well, here's my question for you guys. They really leaned into a retro theme on this one. And I think I can understand where some of the impetus was for that in the beginning. And then I think some other things happened in the last couple of years that made them want to really roll with it. But I do think this movie has just maybe a touch too much of an imposter syndrome. Because obviously the retro feel from the 2 Guardians movies throw that into the cosmic nature of it all. I think originally it was mainly going to be a love letter to Jack Kirby's Cosmic Adventures, and they do a good job of that. But just overall, the retro feel, which I'm a real sucker for nostalgia, so I like it. I'm just curious what you guys, where you come down on it. I've heard people say like this is the movie that Flash Gordon should have been. Personally, I think this movie would have been perfect if painted on the side of a series of 1982 Chevy conversion vans with the little bubble skylight on the top, and they just drove down the highway and you watched it like a weird animatic.
By the way, go watch our Facebook page, because since Bruce mentioned that, I took a picture a couple of years ago of like the most epic semi art you've ever seen in your entire life. I'm going to post that up on facebook.com/YourMoviePodcast, just so you guys, it is like, it's got dragons and fire. It's unbelievable.
I mean, this movie should have been painted on the side of a conversion van that was playing Immigrant Song through the 8-track player while somebody was digging their toes into the shag carpet they'd had put in.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what they're doing. To me, they needed to do something with Thor because, because that second Thor movie. I know that there are people who like that movie. To me, that movie is terrible. And although it has some good aspects to it, because every Marvel movie does, it's to me, it's right up there with Iron Man 2 of just like, oh, you guys really misfired on this. So they needed to really change up, and I thought that they did a great job with that with the direction. The director of this movie, everybody's kind of slamming Disney lately because they're not taking chances anymore with the Star Wars franchise. But, they have taken a huge risk by putting Waititi in as the director of this movie. And it works. It totally and utterly works. And one of I think the production design is great. I think that the theme of the movie is good. And it reminds you of certain things that you don't really think about on the whole when it comes to the character of Thor, which is that Thor really has grown as a character from the first time we saw him to this third movie. And until they brought it up, I didn't even think about that.
Also, maybe Fox could learn a lesson from this, because if there's a superhero property that would really work to just take heavy chances and give us something with a heavy comedic and cosmic tone, the Fantastic Four would be perfect for a movie like this.
I agree. I totally agree. That's one of those franchises where Marvel gets it. Marvel just gets it. This is flagging, so we need to fix this thing. But it seems like Fox doesn't get it.
Not to mention that a lot of the scenery here, a lot of the production design is taken directly from the backgrounds of Kirby-drawn Fantastic Four Silver Age comics.
To get to that point, your original point here, Bruce, the only part that really offended me is the wrong word, but made me go, ooh, that's bad, is when Odin is on the side of that cliff overlooking the sea. That is so obviously an awfully green screen that it took me out of the movie for a minute.
I was just wondering how he grew that beard so fast, because I only wrapped up Westworld a few months ago. And
losing the eye and everything. Who knew?
I need some Anthony Hopkins beard tonic.
Ooh,
I got to tell you, Anthony Hopkins as Loki, come on. That is about the best thing I've ever seen.
Oh, man. It was pretty good, man. The guy, I guess he knows a thing or two about acting.
Yeah, I think he's going to go places, that guy. You know, one of the great joys of me seeing this movie is that I saw it at a movie theater where I've never seen a movie before. So it was an iffy situation. And I think, Adam, you're probably more prone to talk about these things than Bruce is. But so I go into the theater and there's people talking and the phones are out and it's making me nuts.
Well, I get the heebie-jeebies, man.
But then the second that the movie starts, everyone stops. And because it's a funny movie, the crowd was very responsive. Mm-hmm. And it was such a great joy to be part of that. And you forget, I forget about that every so often, where, you know, movies are supposed to be communal, and it was a very communal, just really great experience.
Yeah, it is weird too, and to see the different just people not only just responding to it, but really digging in on Thor. There was something that I saw, probably it was at least 2 years ago, maybe even a little bit longer. I forget which comic book movie it was, but the credits are rolling there and everything, and the kids are talking, and I see this kid walk out, him and his little buddy or whatever. They're probably like 8-9 years old, something in that neighborhood. And one of them looks to the other and goes, "Dude, I can't wait for the next Thor movie." And I was like, what world do we live in? To where the kid is like super stoked about the next Thor flick. And we're at that area now. And I think this movie itself will cement in Thor actually being something that people start to dig on now. Because it's happened slowly but surely, and there was a good bit of it in the first one. They came back a little bit in the second one, but they've gone so heavy throughout with all the different movies and stuff, the Avengers and all that jazz, with the humor that the character's allowed to have. Because you need to sit back and just go, look, this is ridiculous, okay?
Yeah.
God of Thunder, all right? It's a whole bunch of silliness, and now that they lean into that silliness and how they do it with the ultra bright colors and everything, watching this movie is like opening a comic book. You see all those bright colors, you see the fun, you see the adventure, and that's, it's what you come to these things for, at least I do.
I'll say Thor, the character Thor, never has as much humor and about him as he does in this movie in the comics. I think this even goes a step beyond the comics there. But it definitely works for me better than some of those like heavy dramatic scenes that they had Chris Hemsworth pulling off, talking about the fate of his brother. If you go back to like the first Thor movie and the first Avengers movie, they've definitely realized, you know what, this guy's silly, so let's make him the gregarious mead drinking seductive Lord of Thunder. But
I almost like that as a nice arc for him too, to go from this like super straight-laced character and everything who has a couple funny moments to a guy who's kind of leaning into it a little bit.
Yeah, and I like how easily they dispensed of Natalie Portman from the Thor universe too. Just like he's just bitter because somebody takes a selfie with him. I'm sorry that Jane dumped you. It was a mutual dumping.
Yeah, they did a lot of corrective surgery. Well, not a lot, but I caught two things that were corrective surgery on Marvel in this. One was the Jane thing, and the other one was the gauntlet, the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
Because there was all that internet talk of, well, that's the left hand and this one's the right hand. And just to have Hela walk in and go, that's fake.
And then knock it over and it sounds like a wastebasket I'd have in my bedroom as a
garbage.
Kid.
Very cool. And speaking of Hela, this is the first time I have ever been attracted to that actress.
I've always thought she's a good-looking lady, but man, oh man, this is doing it.
Really?
Man alive. Oh,
really?
My God.
See, I think Sean and I like a lot of the same kind of type of lady. So I
think I may have been more into her in previous incarnations. I don't know, because I was very smitten with another new character introduced in this movie. So when we get to that part, you can probably understand why I forgot any other ladies were in it.
Fair enough.
Well, we know about your penchant for the dirty-blooded ladies.
What?
So that's to quickly shift gears here to get myself out of any more trouble I might get myself into. the calling your kid Hela. naming your kid Hela. Nothing but problems, right? Like,
Well, you've got to understand context. Hell was named after her, not the other way around.
Oh, I see.
I thought she was just a big No Doubt fan, and they were like, hey.
In fact, in Norse mythology, there's no A on the end. Her name's just Hel, Hel, and then Marvel added the A because comics code or something.
Thank God you're here. Thank God you're here, Leslie. There's no way Adam or I would have pulled that out.
Because, it looked good, the movie.
Because she's a girl, so it needed an A.
And it also predated, well, actually, I don't know if it did predate Henrietta Lacks, the source of the Hela cells that are the most common cells in culture. If anybody's ever read the book or seen the movie, the immortal Henrietta Lacks.
Oh, who amongst
cells
us
are called
hasn't?
Hela cells.
I got that on 4K Blu-ray. What are you talking about?
Yeah, whenever I see her name, I want to say Hela just because years of cell biology education make me think of Hela cells.
Isn't that always the problem?
Yeah, I know, man. If I had a nickel for every time cell biology came back to bite me in the butt when I'm reading a comic book.
Not again. Not again.
But I also...
Bruce blowing Adam and Sean out of the water with just the sheer amount of education.
Hulk's green.
Now, I do like... I want to talk a little bit about the play that's been commissioned by Loki in the form of Odin.
Oh, I love it so much.
We can't spin past this because there's a whole lot of fun. And number one, I speculate it was an elaborate plan to get Sam Neill to take over the role of Odin for future movies.
That would have been awesome.
Love it. Love it.
And then Matt Damon, I'm not the first person who's noticed this, but I have to share that Matt Damon as Loki looks like Tommy Wiseau.
There's a little bit of that in there. Matt Damon is not in he's not in his Jason Bourne shape in this movie, which I actually love even more, is that it's a little bit of out of shape Matt Damon.
And it's funny because in the room, Tommy Wiseau kind of imagined his character was Matt Damon.
You'll tear me
so
apart,
it's this
Lisa.
weird tail wagging the dog phenomenon here.
So good.
Go ahead.
My audience exploded with this thing. Like the play itself, and I got to be honest with you, I did not know that was another Hemsworth brother playing Thor until I looked it up on IMDb.
Yeah,
later.
I had no idea there was a third Hemsworth.
Yes. Now here's the fun of this, right? Okay. Just to give you a little backstory, for the first Thor, the youngest Hemsworth brother said, hey, I'm going to audition for this Thor thing. Brother Chris came along and said, okay, sure, I'll tag along to this. They found him, kind of running some lines and stuff. And of course, the old classic Hollywood, hey, what about that guy? Brought him in and he got the role. Right?
Oh, that's why some brothers hate their brothers.
Yeah, but he should really hate him for this thing, because come now, hey, we got a chance for you to actually play Thor. You may not be Thor himself, but you'll play a version of Thor. Now get the older Hemsworth brother in there to dig in even further on the younger Hemsworth brother.
Here's how I like to imagine.
You'll never even play it.
I like to imagine that Liam thought this was below him, and then he went to see the premiere and saw Matt Damon and realized what an opportunity he squandered.
Well, this is the brother that's on Westworld, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've seen all of Westworld. I didn't know that was a Hemsworth brother.
Yeah.
I know exactly who he is when you say that. Like, I'm suddenly picturing the security guy. I know who you're talking about, but I never made that connection. So Hopkins got this guy the gig.
Yeah.
And also Valkyrie was on Westworld.
That's right.
Big
connections.
I think any American or anyone else would give their younger brother who didn't get the shot at being Thor that role. But no, the Australians just go, no, I'm going to give it to the older brother and screw you a little bit more. So great.
Now, which one is there a Hemsworth married to Miley Cyrus?
I think the youngest one, I think there was a dalliance. I don't know if that led to anything or not. I'm not too up on the culture, but
I'm picturing like a secret wedding or something. I don't know. I thought somebody might be married to Miley Cyrus.
Who's to say?
Man, when it comes to that stuff, I know as much about celebrity gossip as I know about cell structure.
Well, I can tell you the day-to-day activities of Billy Ray. I'm just not that big on Miley.
There's only one Cyrus I follow, doggone it.
You get the newsletter like me.
Hey, me and Billy Ray sported the same haircut during the 90s.
And some odd into the 2000s, which was embarrassing, but hey, you do what you have to do.
So, where are we? So after the play, then Thor figures out
the Doctor
pretty
Strange,
quickly.
Yeah, of course, it's pretty obvious to him. I think we should go ahead and jump to Earth, unless you've got some more comments about the way Thor figures it out and kind of pins him in with the whole Mjolnir trick. But they go to Earth, man, where Stephen Strange comes into the picture. And the way that they teased Benedict Cumberbatch's involvement in this movie at the end of the Doctor Strange movie, and sort of the way that some of the news reports and things reading up to it, I expected more Doctor Strange in this movie, and I'm not saying that there wasn't enough. I just was surprised that his role was limited to a very short sequence.
I figured it was about as much as we were going to get.
I think it's more than enough, and I'll get to it at the end of the show.
And, obviously my in the know kind of thing. I knew Valkyrie was in it. I knew Hulk was in it. When I heard Doctor Strange was in it, my brain went straight to the Defenders. So I thought Doctor Strange was really going to be in it, like the Hulk is.
That's where you get in trouble, being a nerd again.
But when the little sparkly lights made the circle around Loki, did you immediately know that was Doctor Strange, or did you think maybe it was something Asgardian?
I assumed as much. I mean, because it was like, it's I don't know. It's pretty fresh in my mind, the Doctor Strange stuff. So,
how about you, Sean?
I had no idea. There's so much tomfoolery in this movie. I had no idea what it was.
I knew thanks to my 10-year-old. He said, "Oh, that's Doctor Strange stuff. It makes that sparkle when he does a circle." So I knew right off the bat, courtesy of my 10-year-old son.
That's very cool, man.
He's quicker on the uptake than I am these days.
That is very cool.
It's better than my brother, who took all the way to the end going, "That was Matt Damon?" I'm like, gee whiz, Dad. Come on, man.
Now, was there any real reason for Thor to disguise Mjolnir as an umbrella? Because
I don't know, but
people on the street clearly recognized he was Thor. He wasn't fooling anybody.
It's fan service.
Yeah, the Donald Blake reference, I think, is what they were going for.
Yeah, there's no real reason for it. Unless there was some cut scene that we didn't see, but it seemed pretty fan servicey to me.
Yeah, and then we have a little bit of fun there with Doctor Strange, who happens to know the location of Odin.
How did
That's
he know
really
that
his
again?
whole purpose.
You could just see it.
And when they go meet Odin, now here's the idea that I got, and I don't know if I'm getting my wires crossed exactly. But I felt like it was either the death of Odin that allowed Hela to cross back over, or it was the crossing over of Hela that led to Odin's death. Which way do you take it? It's got to be a chicken or the egg thing.
It's the first one. Because he keeps warning Loki and Thor that Ragnarok is coming because he's dying. Specifically because he's dying.
But you also got to remember, these guys are like close to 500,000 years old. And I mean, how many times in our short lives have we heard people say the end of the world is coming to the point you just tune out those news stories? I wonder if they think, oh, this is just our crazy old dad telling us the end times are approaching. He's been saying this since the dinosaurs roamed the earth.
Has he? Is that what that character does? Because
I don't know. I'm just trying to like consider it, as an option. I feel like in the comics, it seems like the threat of Ragnarok has to show up every 3 years, ever since 1963 or whatever.
Sure.
Bruce just thinks Odin ties one on and starts spinning a yarn yet again. I'm telling you, Ragnarok, that's coming, boy. That's coming.
Yeah, Ragnarok.
You say this every
This is like the 15th
October.
Ragnarok since we came here.
The old man's going off on it again.
Oh, boy.
But I was a little surprised at just how powerful they decided to depict Hela as when she showed up.
Do you mean the reveal that she's deaf, or that she was just her power set was so big?
I mean the fact that she's able to just pretty easily handle Thor and Loki, because normally in the comics it would not be uncommon to see Hela and Loki working together against Thor, and he would defeat the two of them.
Well, I think with a lot of these, Marvel super villains and whatnot, we have to see them kind of do a little bit more and seem to be a little bit more of a threat, because sometimes they seem to be threats in almost words only, I guess. Or like, hey, I'm going to do this. If you don't do this, I'm going to do this. But, like, she's coming in and, kicking butt from the get-of-go.
Yeah, and without hesitation, I mean, the way she destroys Mjolnir, I really wish they hadn't spoiled that in some of the trailers, because that's like the first thing that came out on the first teaser. Also, I wish they hadn't revealed her wearing the full antlers in the trailers, too, because that would have really given me a little pep in my step if I'm watching the movie and I think, okay, so they wussed out. They just have her with hair. They're not going to give her the accurate headdress. Then all of a sudden that thing would have popped up without me expecting it. I would have been real happy.
I like how it came on too, more or less. It was just kind of like a brush back, sort of like it wasn't. It seemed right.
And
there's a lot of nice touches.
Yeah, looking closely at it, I think that there was a practical headpiece that was used in some scenes. I don't think that was purely CGI, was it?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I would think that there's a real life component.
It's not that outlandish.
But yeah, they call up the Heimdall. We'll find out is on the run, which these Thor movies, it's been a while since Dark World, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, was that like 2012 or so? I feel like it's been a long time since Dark World.
It feels like it's been a long time for sure.
But I thought for some reason maybe Heimdall was dead. So I guess I'm glad to know he's not dead. But, they get called into the Bifrost. And this was a really nice way because I was kind of wondering, how are they going to swing this story in the direction I know it's going, because I've seen enough of the previews. I mean, it starts us off in the middle of Planet Hulk in the first preview where Thor's fighting the Hulk. So I'm wondering, how are they going to pull that shift? And then I think they do it great here, having Hela toss him through the Bifrost, essentially, as she goes back to Asgard.
That was pretty cool. I got to say that once the Heimdall reveal happened in my movie theater, one of my favorite moments was this little kid went, yes, when he showed up. Big Heimdall fan, that guy.
Well, and here's the thing, too.
I kept waiting for him to say something about forgetting the face of his father or whatever, but that never happened.
Idris Elba's really become, like, especially since the first Thor, has become such a big star now. Like, back in the first one, it's like, he'd been in some things, but it wasn't stuff that everybody knew. Not everybody was a what-you-call-it fan there. The
Heimdall fan?
Not Heimdall.
Luther?
Luther fans, or the the Baltimore. Why is it the stupid thing?
The Wire.
I'm like, why is it not coming to name The Wire? People, that wasn't ubiquitous, but now he's everywhere, man. And it's great to see him finally go like, oh, sweet, we got this great character that everyone knows.
And
I totally forgot he was in The Wire.
Mm-hmm.
Man, am I remembering this wrong? But I seem to remember, and maybe it was a little CGI effect, but I remember them making him look really, really big and bulky and muscular in the first one. And here he looks like Idris Elba really looks.
Well, he had a lot of armor and stuff on in the big one. And then with the headdress and all that kind of jazz, it made him even look super bigger.
Yeah, I just remember the first time I saw him thinking he looked like a Masters of the Universe character.
Yeah.
That's
how you do it.
Yeah, but I liked Heimdall as the rogue, protecting the people and using his abilities, because it's so easy to forget that he actually does have a pretty impressive power, being able to see the whole universe at once. I kind of thought that just sort of went along with being there at the Bifrost, like he had some kind of interface, but apparently it's his own sorcery.
I thought so too.
We get to meet, one of the two coolest Urbans working today, Carl Urban. Not to be confused with his twin brother Keith Urban, but we see him as Scourge, and that's kind of funny, man. He's a good actor. You know what I mean? The guy, he can do action and comedy, and he does the comedy pretty good here with Scourge. I like it that when we're being introduced, he's talking about the M16s and knowing Scourge's character arc from the comics. I don't know, are those M16s just a little Easter egg? Because sometimes Marvel gives us a little Easter egg, then we never see it again. Or is he actually going to do the whole last stand on the bridge as an Asgardian with machine guns? And we see that they ride that out to its comic conclusion.
That guy just can't catch a break, it seems. He's in everything. He's great in everything. And he's still not that just massive star. And it's a shame, because he is a terrific actor.
And I think maybe his biggest role is probably McCoy at this point. I feel like he deserves more than that. But McCoy's not a small role, but still, I feel like I wish Judge Dredd had become a franchise.
Yeah,
too.
If that really took off, that would have been he'd be even bigger, today.
And inevitably, in the third movie, the bad guy would have to be played by Sylvester Stallone as Judge Dredd.
Man, that would have been perfect.
Call me 2000 AD. I know you got my information. But did either of you guys know much about Scourge before this?
I didn't know anything.
No.
What about consequences, man? We learned that this movie is going to have consequences pretty early on, because as soon as she gets back to Asgard, she kills 2 of the Warriors 3, and then very quickly kills Hogan, the 3rd of the Warriors 3. And it's like real deaths. I'm expecting to see them as prisoners and bandages on them or something. But they honestly are realizing 17 movies in, we got to pare down some of these supporting characters if we're going to bring new characters into this world.
Well, not only that, but you got to kill off Shazam, man. He's not going to come back.
That's true. I didn't really think about that.
Yeah, Zachary Levi, he ain't coming back.
They were just like, "Oh, you're dead to us now." No, for real.
Thanks to the TV filming schedule for Blind Spot, there's still a possibility Jamie Alexander could come back, because I'm not going to lie to you, I like Sif.
I do too, and I like that actress. I think that she's a very, very nice lady.
And I feel like if she had been available to film for this movie, she would have been killed along with the Warriors 3.
Yeah, more than likely.
I agree with you.
Because they didn't seem to want to kind of hold back on the and here's the thing, man. If your character is just like, oh yes, death, guess what ought to be following? A lot of death.
Yeah, very true.
And I like it. I didn't know if they would bring in like a really accurate Fenris, and when they had the big giant wolf come back to life too, I was pretty happy with that.
I bet you were.
Well, man, we need to get to Sakaar. We've been talking a long time and haven't really talked about Sakaar yet. What do you think of Jeff? What do you think of Jeff Goldblum, man? Like, the way that he plays this character, first off, I love it. Very different from the Grandmaster in the comics. The Grandmaster in the comics has blue skin, and they give him like that little strip of blue on his chin just to let us know that they're aware of it. But I think you would have looked kind of silly all blue,
And at the same time, too, you'd probably, like with the audience that we have and everything, would automatically just get a lot of Yondu vibe going on, and they probably don't want that.
You know
not
what?
Only
You're
that,
absolutely right.
And not only that, but you got Goldblum, man. Let Goldblum be Goldblum. And he is at his very Goldblumiest in this movie.
Yeah, man. I got Sam Neill and Jeff Goldblum back together again.
Man, I know it.
Now, to me, I can absolutely see him as the Collector's brother. And I hope that maybe in the Infinity War, or maybe this whatever movie comes after that, I really want these two people to meet again and have that family dynamic, because I think these two actors playing those two eccentric characters could be a lot of fun.
Well, I think that since you haven't killed them off, since they're brothers, since they're big name actors, that's probably going to happen.
Now, that it might not never happen, but both of them have said, yeah, I'd do that solo movie with the two of us.
I never asked for that now. Hold on.
Wow.
Slow your roll, Hollywood.
They've already, I think it's more like them just going, hey, it'd be good, the two of us getting together and doing a movie by ourselves. They're like, oh, all right there, buddy boy. That's cute and all.
Hey,
but
I've got the pitch. Howard the Duck. And those two are in the Howard the Duck movie somehow.
All right, man. Listen, you're starting to get them good ideas again, Bruce.
I was going to say that all of these ideas that have been pitched Marvel will make hundreds and hundreds of dollars off of that
in popcorn sales alone. But I like Jeff Goldblum. I like the very retro Silver Age 60s Marvel look of the guards and the various aliens and I'll assume they're robots rather than people in armor, but they really have an aesthetic to them that no one trying to make like a gritty contemporary sci-fi movie would have robot guards with puppy ears, right?
No, they really lean into the Kirby drawing and especially in that world. It was great.
And Topaz is the first Malibu Comics character. You know, Marvel bought Malibu Comics, I guess, in the 90s.
How well, man, I have not thought about Malibu Comics in, forever. Wow.
Well, Topaz, the lady assistant that the Grandmaster has that doesn't like Valkyrie very much, she's from Malibu Comics.
Man.
Did not know that.
From the Maxim verse or whatever it was called.
Who's their most famous character?
I have no idea, man. At this point, I would have to say Topaz because it's the only one whose name I can think of at the moment. She's the only one to be in a movie that made $500 million on its opening weekend, so that means her.
Good enough for me.
Yeah, me too.
I do like the way. Please help me, guys. The director's name, the correct way to say it.
Taika Waititi.
Okay, so I know
TW
that
to you.
From what he's done previously, like the vampire movie, I know that was probably heavy on the improv.
Yeah, What We Do in the Shadows, I would say there was probably a decent bit of improv in that, but
and here scripted. With a major CGI movie, a very big budget, it's hard to work in the improv, but I feel like he did kind of encourage Jeff Goldblum to maybe have a little fun with some of the things he says. Like when Topaz, what do I always tell you? She is it starts with a B and then Topaz says trash and he has this whole back and forth. There's later when he says, you interrupted me, and she gives him the stick with the yellow or the orange ball on it. He goes, you're giving me the melt stick? All he did was interrupt me. That's not a capital offense. Like, I feel like some of that, he had a line that he just kind of ran with a little bit.
Well, the great thing about that character is the actress who plays her is also in Hunt for the Wilder People, which is a previous Taika Waititi movie. And it's good that he has his stable of actors and he keeps using them. It's very cool. Because Sam Neill is also in that movie.
Oh, cool, man. Is Sam Neill from New Zealand? I know he really likes to do a lot of New Zealand. Well, I mean, it's all New Zealand film up until this, right?
Well, he is either from New Zealand or Australia. I can't remember which one.
They're all the same people. Watch all the Australians start writing in.
Oh, no, please. They're like long distance apart, man. Long distance apart. In kilometers, nonetheless. But anyway.
Listen to that.
But also, I think this director understands a certain joy that people get from improv, because there's this scene where Thor is talking to Hulk. And you can't have like this huge, I mean, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars per second are they spending rendering this Hulk with a Ruffalo face? Boy, that's a whole new thought.
Wow. Totally. All right. Well,
yeah, Ruffalo is what I meant.
That's
the
hero.
90s She-Hulk.
But there's a part where, the Hulk says, yes, but Hulk like raging fire, you like smoldering. And then Chris Hemsworth like starts chuckling as if he's losing it. Like he gives you that kind of laugh that's like, in a sketch show, you can appreciate this, Sean. It drives you nuts. But when a person is breaking character because they're laughing at the other actor's antics on stage, he gives you that kind of laugh, like a Carol Burnett, like a Harvey Korman, Tim Conway, kind of like trying to hold back the laugh, where I know there couldn't be improvisation of that level with a big CGI Hulk, could there?
Yeah, absolutely there could, because they did it with Robin Williams with Aladdin, where they were like, just go. And then they animated around his improvisation. I would imagine that there was probably a bit of that for this movie.
Now, it's interesting that you say that, because Tim Allen was actually just on Adam Carolla's podcast like last week, and he was talking about the original Toy Story and stuff. And my favorite line in that film he talked about was an improv line of him just saying, "You're a sad and pathetic little man, and I pity you." That was an improv line, and they laughed at it, and they were just like, "Oh, crud! Now we've got to do all this other work and stuff." So it depends on how they do it. Yeah.
Well, anyway, also this is the kind of movie that has a budget that they're doing more than one take also. So the fact that it looks like Thor is cracking up there means that the director liked that to be in there. Like, that's not slipping through like it would in an episode of Carol Burnett.
Well, the real question is who did the actual line readings with him on set? Was it Ruffalo or was it the director?
It was Gilbert Gottfried. I read that in the behind the scenes.
Hulk is like raging fire.
Stan Lee said it.
It's also not the only improv line in this movie, I don't think, because there's that whole Revengers scene where they're talking about revenge, and then they get to Ruffalo, and Ruffalo goes, I don't have anything to revenge.
Also, I think Ruffalo might be good at winging stuff because just and I've gotten to appreciate him so much since he's been Bruce Banner, because he's an actor I couldn't have given two pipsqueaks for in the past. But man, I love him as Banner. But then the whole thing where he's like, I don't want to fight your sister. This seems like a family issue. Like something about his delivery there just wins me over.
I've always loved Ruffalo, man. And when I heard that that's who they were getting for Hulk from this point forward, I was like, yes. Big fan.
The last time I saw him in a non-Marvel movie, there were no laughs. It was that one about the Catholic priests or whatever, and there were no laughs in that one. So I'm sticking to Marvel.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
I haven't seen Infinitely Polar Bear. Is he in that one?
I believe, yes, he is.
Maybe that one's got some laughs. That sounds like a funny name.
No, not a lot of laughs in that either.
Oh, rats. Well, I'm sticking to Hulk movies then.
Did you just say rats?
Rats, yeah.
Oh,
no cursing.
rats.
No cursing. We're PG-13, PG-11 here.
PG-11.
No, I understand that, but I've never heard anyone exclaim rats. Very good.
A long time ago, somebody told me it has the same mouthfeel as the SH word, so I use it a lot.
Oh.
Shiitake?
Exactly.
Anyways.
But when the Hulk gets out of the hot tub, man.
So good.
And I'm sitting there thinking, thank goodness there's not an unrated version, first of all.
Well,
because I'm very well versed in human anatomy. And one thing that I know is that I know that Sir Mix-a-Lot claims to have an anaconda. And I'm not the kind of person to call Sir Mix-a-Lot a liar, though I don't think he was ever actually knighted by the Queen. I think he just calls himself that.
Ooh.
I haven't seen his paperwork that proves he's a knight of the realm or whatever. But something tells me that whatever the Hulk has could literally spit John Voight out if it wanted to.
Oh, my gosh. And John Voight winks at the camera.
Just picture that, folks. That is the universe in which the Hulk lives.
Wow.
Well, I do love Thor's line for that. That's burned into my brain now. It's very good.
But as far as I know, there are 3 groups of people that can honestly claim to have anacondas. Of course, Sir Mix-a-Lots can claim to. I'm going to allow him that, even though, like I said, I don't know that he's a knight. Of course, Incredible Hulks. Incredible Hulks definitely have anacondas. And then I think just playing the odds, probably podcasters. And that's the only 3 groups of people that really have anacondas.
Ridiculous.
And Milton Berle.
Well, he was a podcaster before podcasting was a thing.
This is true. We have gone down a very dark road.
But, they do give us a little butt cheek view, man. And I got to say, the Hulk's pretty toned.
And yet we still keep going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, still going.
So, I do like how they kind of give the old, look, man, he may be going down this like perma-Hulk road, if you will.
I do like that. It gave it some consequences so that we have to ask ourselves, first off, it did 2 things. If this were a lesser movie in terms of the confidence the studio had behind it, I would tell myself, okay, that's so they don't have to spend money on CGI Hulk anymore. We're just going to get Banner through the rest as a money-saving thing. But I knew that movie wasn't this movie. So it's to make us ask ourselves, when he inevitably does become Hulk again, are we going to be on the edge of our seat to see if Banner comes back or not? Strangely, they didn't really do that. He just kind of came back, and it seemed like it was no big deal. But that's what I thought they were building this up for.
Well, let's talk about this.
It was all set up for a joke, which I thought was awesome. That's a great joke, man.
When he jumps down on the bridge and just hits face first.
He goes face first out of the bridge, and he just takes a complete dive.
Plus, it leads to all that back and forth kind of joke where Valkyrie says, there's something familiar about you. And he's like, there's something familiar about you, too. And Thor, of course, knows what it is, but doesn't want to let either of them in on it. But we haven't really talked about Valkyrie yet. Tessa Thompson. And I got to say, man, she's adorable.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. Adorable wouldn't have been the first one I would have wanted to. I mean, she's, okay. I mean, I'll give it to you.
I mean that in only the most positive of senses, man. But I got to tell you, I've seen Westworld, but she never caught my eye like she did as Valkyrie. Something about the tough renegade falling drunk off the edge of her spaceship at one point, firing the big space version of a Gatling gun. I like this character, and this is one that I was glad to see there wasn't a lot of the kind of internet grumbling that happens, for example, when Michael B. Jordan got cast as the Human Torch. I didn't hear a single grumble about that with this
that's
character.
because people don't know these characters at all.
Some people know Valkyrie. If nothing else, I think they got it all out of their system with Heimdall when the first one came around.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden when people figured out who that dude was and what he does, everybody's like, "Oh, that's right, we're okay with it. We were all a bunch of silly heads." He's great.
But they did have the flashback where it shows all the Valkyries riding against Hela. And then there's one particular Valkyrie that like turns around and takes a sword in the back or whatever to save the Valkyrie of this movie. And that one looks like drawn directly from the comics. So it's kind of cool. They did give us an Easter egg of like the comic book Valkyrie. But man, I am glad they went with this actress because she's fun. She does the humor. She does the physical part. I really like this actress. I think she's going to have a big part in the future of Marvel movies. They've said she will be in the Infinity War.
Is Angela? Does she show up in this movie?
No. And her, I don't know, man. I she's got kind of a complicated business side of things with her. I don't know that they'd be in a hurry to put her into a movie.
That's true.
Created by Neil Gaiman, first showed up in Spawn. Suddenly she became like Thor's sister without any good explanation.
Yeah, it's like a weird half McFarlane, half this and the other and the other. There's like 15 different people that are all involved with that, and they even had problems doing that back then.
Yeah, and they wound up with some kind of weird trade where Neil Gaiman gave up rights to medieval Spawn, but in turn he got Angela.
So bizarre. That's comic book law for you, everybody.
Yeah, it's not as bad, not as bad as the time when an animated rabbit got traded for Al Michaels in the TV world. But anyway, I'm going way too far off topic here. But yeah, I really like Tessa Thompson. I was not familiar with her really at all. Like I'd seen Westworld, but never noticed her character that much. But seeing her in this movie, man, she was cast well. Her dialect coach that she worked with, I think did a really good job of helping her deliver a lot of those lines in a way that I found convincing. A whole lot of fun with the way she plays off of Bruce Banner, that whole back and forth where it's like, really weird. Feel like I should know you, but I don't know why. That whole thing going back and forth. Her reaction when he jumps out of the plane and just belly flops on the bridge is pretty good too.
Yeah. It is a fun time.
One of the things that I really like about this movie also is the dichotomy with Thor, with Banner, and Hulk. Where no, you're my favorite. No.
He's got to reassure each one that they're his buddy.
Banner's all numbers and chemicals.
I do love the way they play a lot of that off, though. They really make Thor look to be selfish, which is kind of true to the character. That's why I got turned into Donald Blake in the first place in the comics. So I kind of like that.
Me too.
But when it comes to fighting evil entities, he is good at that. I love that. I don't know how to fly. Use one of your 7 PhDs. But they do start a revolution there. They convince Valkyrie to work with them. Of course, you get an obligatory double, triple, quadruple cross from Loki. I lost count. It might have been up to a septuple cross by the end. He keeps going back and forth, but he shows up on the side of the heroes at the end, which is kind of what that character needed to do for this movie. They got to get him aligned on the right side before the Infinity War stuff happens, because they can't have him out there to be worried about when Thanos shows up.
And Hiddleston's just so great in everything, man. He's so darn good in this. And could you imagine that guy he tried out for Thor? Did you know that?
He probably would have been okay at it.
Yeah, when you look at what Hemsworth looks like now, Hemsworth didn't look like that when both tried out for Thor.
Very true.
Hey, he's no Eric Kramer or whoever that guy was from the Hulk movie, Adam, but he's good.
Who is?
I guess we got our big showdown here. Oh, wait. I don't want to go too quick without talking about the director himself playing a character in this movie, who I found to be a really well-used comedic character. Like, he's not one note. He doesn't show up for one joke and then disappear, but they don't overdo it with him either. I think they used a great light touch with Korg.
Yeah, it's great. When I heard the voice, I was just like, oh, because I had no clue he was actually going to be starring in this anywhere. And I was super excited for that because I was like, oh, wow, he's awesome. He gets a chance to not only direct this, but actually be a part of it too, which I thought was pretty sweet.
I didn't even realize this until somebody else brought it up on Saturday to me. But Taika Waititi, he probably knows how to make a good superhero movie from being in such a bad one, because he's in Green Lantern. He plays Hal's sidekick guy. He plays Pie, but they don't call him Pie in Green Lantern, in the movie.
Yeah, probably a good choice not to call him Pie Face.
Probably not. And so he probably learned, oh, don't want to do that. Oh, that's not a way to do that. Nope, don't want to do that one. And so he is a good actor. He's in a lot of stuff. And at first when I heard that voice, I thought it was the guy who plays Murray from Flight of the Conchords, but then realized, oh no, it's the director. And it would make sense that he's doing Murray's voice because he did direct so many episodes of Flight of the Conchords.
And also, I don't have an extended knowledge of Polynesian bouncers, but some of the stuff I read about the behind the scenes of the production, apparently he based a lot of this voice and the way this character carries himself after Polynesian bouncers that he knew, who were like these massive guys working the door at bars, but they had like this high pitched mellow voice that just didn't seem to fit. And he thought that was perfect for this character.
Now come here, fella. No, hold on.
Yeah, exactly.
Hello, new Doug.
I love that whole. I mean, his humor is like the perfect amount of dryness, but really hits home, and it almost you could believe he's not saying it because he thinks it's funny, but it comes out like the whole, oh well, goodbye, new Doug. Yeah, that's the same thing Doug thought. And then when he runs, he says, "Get out of here, ghost man!" Just out of the blue, he runs out and kicks the wall after Loki's already disappeared. He's going to come in and be the hero at the end. The whole story, he started a revolution and didn't do a good job of marketing, so only his mother and her boyfriend, who he can't stand, showed up.
He's like, I don't even like him.
This, man. This is such golden writing around Korg. The best written character in the movie.
So good.
They showed up. I don't even like him.
Is that some kind of protoplasm coming out of you, or those eggs? Because they look like eggs. Meek's dead. I've just been carrying him around because I feel bad about it.
and then he hiccups or burps or something.
Goes,
Meek's
you're alive.
So good, man.
I'm just now all I'm doing is quoting Korg, but I can't help it. It's so enjoyable. But, hey, you want to fight with a big wooden fork? It's really good if three vampires fight you all clustered together. Or some people claim that was a reference to what works in the shadows or whatever that movie is called.
Yeah, What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah. Just some of the best lines.
That was a great movie to see in the theaters because they showed it. It was a limited run thing, so they showed it in art house theaters. So I go to see it in the theater and everything, and 90% of the people that are there are over the age of 60, and I don't think any of them really knew they were going to see a comedy because for the first 20 minutes, no one was really laughing at all the what are clearly out and out straight jokes, and they're like, "What is?" This is bizarre. What? And they finally got into it, but it was hilarious to see these people just go "This is what did we just pay ticket money for? What is this?"
That movie has one of my favorite comedy lines of all time in it, where the guy goes, "So why is virgin blood so important?" The vampire goes, "Well, imagine that you're eating a ham sandwich, and then imagine you're eating a ham sandwich that someone has effed."
Similar joke too, and he says, I just throw my hammer and it pulls me off into the sky, and then his comeback to that's kind of funny too.
About the end of
so good. So good.
But in the big finale here, they all make it back to Asgard. Some of the freed prisoners who have jobs because the Grandmaster doesn't like the slave word, which I thought was funny.
Oh, that is great.
And then of course we got Valkyrie and the Hulk, and and Thor there, and Loki shows up in the reserves, and eventually Scourge switches sides and uses the M16s just like he did in the comics. In the comics, he died in battle holding back Hela on a bridge, and that's exactly what happens here. Kind of an obscure thing in the comics that they really showed a lot of devotion to, which I can appreciate.
That's Marvel for you, though, man.
Any stuff that worked better or worse for you in the big finale, or were you absolutely satisfied with the finale? Have any favorite parts in this big battle at the end?
I like the way that it had to end. You know, it's not like, well, Thor's just going to beat the crap out of this thing that's kind of like Thor also, and now he's learned his lesson. It's different than that, you know. It's kind of like what I would call a Galaxy Quest ending, where it's clever, you know. It's a clever defeat of the bad guy in this movie, and it
has consequences. Which you know, if you think of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole, what franchise after 17 entries still has consequences in the plot? But there are huge consequences here. All of Asgard has to be destroyed to defeat Hela, and I like it that they finally, you know. So often do they say the only way to destroy them would be to destroy the whole world, and then they find out some other way to do it at the end. I like it that they didn't back down here. And I also thought it was hilarious when the Hulk attacks Surtur near the end. He goes, "But big monster!"
You know, we mentioned this briefly at the beginning of this episode, but it really does seem like we're going to see a guard shift here in Marvel, because that's how they're leaning, you know?
Yeah.
I would expect to see a whole lot of changes happening in the next two Avengers.
Now, couple questions, I guess. Number one, I don't know if it bothers anybody or if you think it's not even a question worth asking, but they don't exactly explain how Loki escaped from Surtur once he freed him. Did any of you guys ask yourself, like, how did Loki get out of there once he unleashed the beast?
He's a trickster.
Yeah,
he tricked his way out. That's it. I like that.
Bruce, Loki has died 17 times in these movies now. You know, like, he's going to get out.
Yeah. And then
Loki's going to Loki, man. Come on.
They give Korg another great line. Don't worry, the foundation's still there. You can rebuild. Oh, well, foundation's not looking so good now. But we know where they're headed. Adam, do you know where they're headed? Where will the new Asgard be the next time we see it in a Marvel movie?
Oh, you know, one of those. I'm thinking we go to like a populous place where there's like a lot of cool, interesting people, and it's all super hip and stuff, right?
I'm thinking Broxton, Oklahoma. Yeah, I think
that's the opposite of what I just said, Bruce. Yeah,
I hope to all that is holy, they go with Broxton, Oklahoma, and that could even open the door for a potential siege kind of storyline too.
I think it's got to be, right. I don't think there's any other option.
Straight out of Broxton, man. It's got to be Broxton, Oklahoma. If they don't take them to Broxton, a lot of people are going to cry foul at this point. What'd you think about Thor losing his eye?
I thought that is one of those things. For a second, you just go, "Oh wait, no, that has happened in the past." So that, you know, it makes sense.
It would have worked better for me if he lost his arm, because for quite a while in the comics, he's had a prosthetic arm, like a magic prosthetic arm, because he lost his arm against Gorr, the God Killer, or something. And when that battle was going down, I didn't expect him to lose his eye. I expected him to lose his arm, because it's almost a little too heavy-handed changing of the rulership of Asgard from Odin to Thor to go with the eye patch route.
You must have this many eyes to rule.
But isn't that... But in Old Man Thor, isn't that what he has? He has the eye patch, right?
Yeah, he does. But he's also got the prosthetic arm. And I think if they'd given him both, I could have went with it. But if they're just going to choose one, I think the arm would have been kind of cool, because people really would have freaked out at the arm getting cut off and then have him show up with the magic Uru arm or something.
They're like, look, we're going to give Misty Knight a robot arm. Do you want to give everybody a robot arm? Is this how you want to work it?
What would be great is if Misty Knight debuts her robot arm with no explanation on Netflix. Thor just flies down, yanks it off, sticks it on his arm, and flies away.
This is mine. Puts it in and just goes right away. Well, that was odd.
But yeah, and I guess Stan Lee cameos. As far as Stan Lee cameos go, this might be my second favorite behind being the DJ in the strip club in Deadpool.
It's just I like the idea of him as a hair cutter. I like to think that there's a completely other version of this where Stan Lee just does his version of shampoo.
I liked it too when later on when Banner asks him, "Hey, you got your hair cut?" And he goes, "Yeah, some creepy old guy cut my hair." I like it that he called him out.
That was great. I like that they gave Stan's brother credit for this one also.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. Well, he's always had character creation credit from the beginning, just not that the movies necessarily shared that. But Larry Lieber from the get-go has had a creator credit, for better or for worse.
Well, no, it's nice to see like that, and then with the last Superman flick to actually, the last Superman Batman flick to actually see Bill Finger get some credit and stuff. Yeah, so it's been nice to see people that have been kind of pushed down and shut up for so many years to at least get a little something.
Yeah, it's another one of those situations though where I think Kirby created it and other people piggybacked on there, including Larry Lieber.
Hold on, wait a second. That sounds unprecedented.
I mean, yeah, the three of them came up with it together. Never mind the fact that Kirby had pitched a Thor comic to DC back in the 50s.
Whatever.
But anyway, it is what it is. I don't want to go down that sanctimonious road right now because this was a good time. And in the credits, they see a big spaceship that probably, I don't know, it probably has somebody other than Thanos on it.
So you think other than Thanos is on this?
No, man. There's no way there's anybody other than Thanos.
I'm like, who do you think?
It'd be great if they got confused on the makeup and the screen comes down and it's Josh Brolin as Jonah Hex driving that thing.
Ooh, he is going to be in Legends of Tomorrow.
But it's not Brolin. And then we got that fun very end of the credits thing where Grandmaster comes out and goes, "Guys, good job. Got to tell you, we needed to spice things up. I did it. This revolution, it went great. I think it's fair to say it was a tie."
Very good.
The way he sells that, man, it's awesome. I love Goldblum as the Grandmaster.
Goldblum is Goldblum all the way. So let me ask you something, Bruce.
Yeah.
What do you think that there is in any way a possibility? Not only can we directly relate this movie to Sylvester Stallone, but we could also have it done by somebody who actually did a talking baby on television before? Could that be?
I think it's very possible.
Get at it. What?
Not only that, I could do it in one sentence.
Oh my goodness. Sean, do you have something to share with the group?
In fact, I do. Thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Tessa Thompson is in Creed, Stallone is in Creed, and there's your Stallone connection. But what I'd like to talk about this week is a very serious problem that I don't think we talk about enough on this podcast. And since it showed up again in Thor Ragnarok, I feel like it's my duty to devote some time to it because it's getting a pass, and that's making me crazy. The problem is this. Benedict Cumberbatch has a horrible American accent. And what accent is that supposed to be exactly? Midwest? He sounds like he watched Monty Python sketches, or maybe he listened to Michael Caine's horrible American accent. I don't know, but it's distracting and terrible. And even if he nailed that Midwest accent, why would a guy who lives in the East Village have a Midwestern accent? And not to pile on, but when Cumberbatch has the Doctor Strange costume on, he gets that same look on his face a cat gets when you try to put a hat on it. And if you're asking yourselves how I know that, you obviously haven't signed up for my cat calendar subscription. And you know what? That's your loss. It's called Cat's Incredible, and it's amazing. This is the part of the Stallone connection where I usually find someone who has the opposite take on the movie I talk about in the Stallone connection. But since this week I'm that nut job, instead I look to find someone who hates Thor Ragnarok because general consensus is everybody likes this movie. So where does one go to find people who hate a movie everyone else loves? IMDb user reviews. Oh. Well, also true. Armand White or IMDb user reviews.
Oh, boy.
Now, before I read this review, I want to remind the HMPers that this country was founded by immigrants. So it's totally cool to make fun of their lack of conjugation and syntax. Now, this review comes from someone who calls themselves TNK777, and his review is titled Just for Brainless People. He writes about Thor Ragnarok. This movie don't have any creativity, just same as others. Lots of explosion, cheese dialogue, It's same story. I knew when I'm going to watch this movie going to be simple and empty, but what I watched was the worst. Movies later are made for brainless audience. Been seat there and been fed it with crap. All movies spend millions of dollars in trash. Thank you, TNK 777. You have making points. Big time, family member. So there you have it, HMPers. This week's Stallone connection. Now, Korg and Meek, let's review this movie so we can prep for the next 2 weeks to review the Justice League movie. I know I'll be scouring the thesaurus looking for other words that mean suck.
Oh, gosh.
That's a little bit of a preview for you. Well, everybody, here on Hero Movie Podcast, we don't have stars. We don't have letter grades or anything of that mess. We've got our own mess. It's called the Robin Rating System. And if you want to jump on over and check it out, go to facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast. It's right there at the top of the page. And while you're there, hey, man, why don't you throw us a like on that bad boy as well? Let's get to it. Bruce, where does Thor Ragnarok fall on the HMP Robin Rating System for you, sir?
Man, this movie was a lot of fun. And that's the biggest complaint I have about movies I don't like is where's the fun? The plot doesn't have to be tight. It doesn't have to mean a lot if you can at least have fun. This movie was a lot of fun, and it also had consequences. One thing I will say is that the fun and the humor was so much that I didn't really feel the consequences, even though they were there. You know what I mean? I kind of glanced over it because of all the enjoyable stuff. I love the addition of Valkyrie to the Marvel Universe. I think I made that clear, didn't I, guys? No question on that I might be a little smitten with Valkyrie now. This is easily the best of the 3 Thor movies. It's a good movie. I'm going to give it a Tim Drake. It doesn't go to Dick Grayson territory for me, but Tim Drake's a pretty darn good rating.
Indeed it is, Mr. Keenan.
For me, it is also a very high Tim Drake. Please help me. I mean, come on, man. Please help me. I love that bit. Please don't do Please Help Me.
We didn't even mention that. Yeah.
I love that bit so much. It made me laugh so hard. It's very Looney Tunesy. We're not happy birthday. Not happy birthday. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up on YouTube. It's hilarious. Anyway, I love this movie. I love everything about it. You know, when you have a very difficult, stress-filled week like I do week in, week out lately, and you go to see a movie like this, you want it to at least be fun. And this movie far, far surpassed my expectations. I knew I was going to like it just because I know the people involved with the making of it, but I didn't know I would like it this much. So it's a very, very high Tim Drake.
Well, gentlemen, it is Tim Drake's all around. Very high on this as well. Enjoyed it a whole bunch. It could go Dick Grayson, but I do want to see it at least 1 or 2 more times before I, kind of submit that down there. But right now, super strong Tim Drake. I had a blast with this thing. Like I said earlier, we're making, people Thor fans, for heaven's sake. And who thought they could do that? I mean, 20 years ago, somebody said, oh, there can be people out there that like a Thor movie is going to make $500 million in its first weekend. You'd laugh them right out of the bank, man. It's ridiculous. So, but they're doing it, and they're doing it well. And Marvel's just knocking it out of the park, man. Like I said, with the DC stuff, I always pray it's good. But, man, when Marvel just shows up, I'm like, I feel like I'm in good hands. And with, Black Panther coming up as well, I see that trailer and I just go, I think we're going to be okay.
But when it comes to Justice League, we know that Jason Momoa is going to be adorable. So I'm going to like that.
You want to talk about the worst? All right. Anywho,
adorable.
That is it, everybody. Thank you so much for downloading and listening today. And if if you like this program and it's your first time here, you hadn't been here in a while or whatever, how about you drop on down to iTunes and give us a 5-star review, aka Humdinger.
Humdinger.
It's been a while since we had one of those. We'd really appreciate that. In the meantime, before we talk about what we're going to do next week, Bruce, how about you tell us where we can find more of your work on the internet, sir?
Nerd Spawn Genesis, available on Amazon. It's a book written specifically for the folks that listen to this podcast. I mean, how often can you say somebody actually took the time to write this book just for me? Well, if you're listening to this podcast, that's you. You have to check it out. It's got Tunica, Mississippi, West Memphis, Arkansas, Charlie Cheese, references to Five Nights at Freddy's, the awesome movie known as Jonah Hex, dissociative identity disorder, cool cosplay, Hot Wheels versus Matchbox cars. What more could you want for $2.99 on Amazon, the price of a single issue of a DC comic? It's enrolled in Kindle Unlimited, so subscribers can read it for free. You know what? Even if you're not a subscriber, you can read the first 2.5 chapters for free just by tapping on the cover and using the look inside feature. So please, folks, I'm begging you, check it out. You guys are the reason I wrote it.
Get yourself hooked on the drugs that is Nerd Spawn Genesis. Keenan.
Hey, you can find me at Twitter at Hero Movie Sean, and that's it.
Good. And, of course, my other podcast, The Film Find. The Film Find. I don't know. TheFilmFind.com. We missed last week, but we're doing this week, and we are doing double show this week, man. So we have got so much big stuff here for you. So take a look at that, TheFilmFind.com. And on Monday evenings at 10 p.m. Eastern over at Twitch, you can just easily go there at NerdTalkNow.com, and that'll bring you directly there. I do a show called Nerd Talk Now, where I talk all kinds of nerdy stuff and whatever, man. So check that out, and all the episodes are archived there as well, so check that out. And as we mentioned a couple weeks ago, Preacher season 3 has been announced, so if you haven't caught up on Preacher, man, go to preacherpodcast.com and check out all that good stuff, and do that, man. We really appreciate it. Next week, we are going to be talking the first 2 episodes of The Gifted, the show on Fox that is all about X-Men that Fox doesn't seem to want to let you know has X-Men in it for some odd reason. So we'll be talking about that next week. Until then, thank you guys so much for listening. For Sean, Keenan, Bruce, Leslie, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.